News coverage you can count on. This is Good Morning Virginia.
Good Monday morning, time now 5:29. Breaking overnight, a mess in Lynchburg after a peaceful protest took a nasty turn. This morning, we do have team coverage with ABC 13's Cynthia Beasley, Alessandra Young, and Emily Swecker. First, we're going to start with Alessandra, who is live near the 5th and Federal Street restaurant in Lynchburg, where all this chaos erupted. Alessandra.
Lynchburg Police Department did send a press release just a little bit ago saying that a lot of Lynchburg police officers were sent with many injuries due to all of these protests, and some individuals have been arrested. Officers did use a chemical agent, which we did experience.
If you follow me this way, look at how destroyed the glass is here. And if you look a little closer into the building, you can see the rocks that protesters were throwing inside the building. They were throwing them so hard that even the cars that are inside are damaged as well.
Dozens of militia members came out here to 5th and Federal last night when that peaceful protest turned violent. Now, they were trying to protect this business from the damage, but you can see there's still a lot of damage done to this restaurant. I'm going to show you first this fence. So you're seeing it right here. That's coming from that section right there. Now laying here on the front lawn. This is, of course, where the outdoor seating area is. We have benches that have been completely overturned along with tables, chairs. Now, this all came from these rocks. This is maybe the most eerie part of it all. If you just follow along, you can see dozens, maybe even hundreds of rocks that are laying here. And it's not even just the number of them, but the size. This is what the militia members tell me protesters were throwing at them as they were trying to protect this business. Now, I did speak with a Bedford County militia member. His name is Kurt Feigl. He told me that the owner called them for help after they realized this was not going to be peaceful all night long. He says they were standing inside trying to protect this business, but it got really bad really fast.
They had a willing, a plentiful arsenal of rocks to use. I mean, thousands. I don't know how many they must have thrown, but all the windows are busted out and a lot of damage.
We're going to go out now live to ABC 13's Alessandra Young with what she is seeing out there this morning.
A couple of hours ago, Lynchburg Police Department did release a statement saying that several officers have been injured due to when the protests got violent, and some protesters have been arrested. But as you can see, there's a lot of damage that's been done inside to 5th and Federal. I mean, look at the glass that's been broken right here. It is completely shattered. This is right outside. I mean, there's glass all over the place. If you're looking here, there's, as you can see, look, it looks like a couple layers of glass, honestly. It's just all broken. There's glass all over the place. Look at the front door that you would normally be coming inside to have a meal. You can barely touch it because it looks like it's about to shatter. And if you just take a look at this carpet, look at the floor, I mean, there are shards of glass all over the place. We have been showing you guys so much of the damage throughout all of this morning. There is a bucket full right here with the stones that were used to kind of break through, penetrate all of this glass. Keep tuning in. We're going to continue to have team coverage for the rest of the day. Live in Lynchburg, Alessandra Young, ABC 13 News.
As for how that protest started, one woman says it was just her and a sign. Stacey O'Hara says she thought the tweet was offensive and wanted to make a stand. She went outside 5th and Federal yesterday alone with a Black Lives Matter sign. She told us this was at about 11 a.m.
Yes, there was fear for my personal safety and the safety of those around me, but I was feeling a lot of sadness. I was feeling a lot of sadness that people felt that they had to resort to that sort of thing.
News coverage you can count on. This is ABC 13 News at 5.
Breaking news coverage right now. Love for humanity is what we have to have. That is the message from Lynchburg's mayor tonight after protests turned violent.
To those of you who participated in the criminal acts last night, and who may be patting yourselves on the back this morning, I say to you that you have done nothing to advance the cause of equality.
Police arrested 2 people following last night's events, and several Lynchburg Police Department officers were hurt. 33-year-old Brian Lamont Davis of Campbell County is charged with throwing a projectile missile at an occupied building and unlawful assembly.
I'm very proud of my officers' actions. They showed incredible restraint last night under very challenging circumstances. They were being pelted by rocks and bricks for the majority of the evening when they were interacting with these protesters.
Tonight, we are talking to the owner of 5th and Federal about what happened. Josh Reed says last night things spiraled out of control. He also apologized for the tweet, saying it was not meant to be insensitive or offensive to the African American community. In that tweet, he's suggesting that his employees wear a face mask with the photo from Governor Ralph Northam's yearbook page where he is allegedly in blackface. Of course, Northam has denied being in blackface in that photo. He says that tweet was just directed at Governor Northam's executive order, saying they've really struggled through the pandemic.
It was never meant to be anything racial. It was just about what was constantly being done to the business from the governor's orders that kept changing.
We want to break down for you now just what happened yesterday that led to those arrests and acts of violence.
Now let's look back at how the day unfolded. Peaceful protests started Saturday morning when a rally of about 70 people met at the Lynchburg Community Market. From there, they marched to the Lynchburg Police Station. The goal was simply to raise awareness of racism and police brutality. Then on Sunday, a new protest, this time in front of 5th and Federal in Lynchburg. During our live shot at 6 p.m., you could see protesters asking drivers to honk in response to their message. People were protesting in response to a Twitter post 5th and Federal put out, saying their employees would be interested in using face masks designed by Liberty University President Jerry Falwell.
Things started to turn violent around 9 p.m. According to LPD, at 9:12 p.m., officers responded to the intersection of 5th and Federal Streets for a disorderly crowd blocking the road. After officers arrived, they say protesters began throwing rocks and assaulting them. Agencies from Bedford County, Campbell County, and Amherst County were called in to help LPD. By 1 a.m., the police were warning everyone to leave or face being arrested.
I'm warning you to leave the premises. If you not leave, you will be arrested.
Chief Ryan Zudema says officers issued multiple warnings. Teams started moving up the street and shooting CR gas to disperse the crowd. Zudema says some violent protesters then moved to the ABC store on 12th Street, some causing damage there as well.
By 3 a.m., police say things began to calm down. Police arrested 2 people. Several officers were injured, and 3 police vehicles were damaged.
It was a peaceful protest at 5th and Federal in Lynchburg that turned violent overnight. Folks were demonstrating after the business responded in a tweet to a Jerry Falwell tweet.
ABC 13's Casey Baylor spoke to several people who are right there in the crowd last night and joins us live. Casey?
2 protesters that came out caught everything on Facebook Live last night. They came here with the intention to peacefully protest, but they didn't expect what would happen next.
Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot!
Many gathered with this message in mind.
So we're here to finally have justice. We're here to fight for our right to be humans.
Leonard Becker and Justin Salisbury were among many who stood outside of 5th and Federal Station. They wanted to express their anger with the business's post asking to order face masks that Jerry Falwell had tweeted to mock the governor with racially charged images on them.
News coverage you can count on. This is ABC 13 News at 6.
Breaking tonight, the city of Lynchburg is under a state of emergency following last night's peaceful protest that turned violent.
We have live team coverage following tonight's new developments. Let's go first to ABC 13's Hannah McCumsey in Lynchburg with the city's response to last night's chaos. Hannah.
Well, Noreen, Lynchburg city manager implemented a curfew citywide to try and prevent another night of violence here in the Hill City. This comes after a peaceful protest turned violent last night. Several Lynchburg police officers were sent to the hospital.
I have declared a local emergency due to civil unrest.
Action from Lynchburg city manager following protests that turned violent Sunday night. Officials say a peaceful protest began Sunday afternoon outside 5th and Federal in Lynchburg, sparked by this tweet from the restaurant, a reply to Liberty University's president.
The tweet suggesting the restaurant would buy masks with an image of Governor Northam's medical school yearbook, allegedly showing him in blackface, a claim he denies.
We support, as a police department, the right to protest.
Lynchburg Police Chief Ryan Zudema says officers drove by the peaceful protests several times to show support. He says what happened next is inexcusable.
No justice, no peace, right or wrong.
Zudema says officers were called to 5th and Federal around 9:15 Sunday night and met with violence.
We had 2 officers that were injured. One went to the hospital after a brick literally broke the plexiglass shield off of his riot helmet and then struck him in the face.
Lynchburg's mayor also says what happened is indefensible. She's urging people to protest injustice peacefully.
To those of you who participated in the criminal acts last night and who may be patting yourselves on the back this morning, I say to you that you have done nothing to advance the cause of equality.
Local African-American leaders are weighing in on the protests.
ABC 13's Caroline Eaker is live outside 5th and Federal with their message to the community. Caroline?
Like Taylor was saying, these windows behind me last night ended with rocks being thrown through them, leaving a lot of damage behind here at 5th and Federal. But some leaders from the African American community I spoke with today say violence is not the answer. They say to move forward, people have to understand what's driving these protests. Today, crews at 5th and Federal cleaned up broken glass and swept up rubble from last night's protest that turned violent. This protest comes less than a week after the death of George Floyd.
Having to kind of relive a dark period that a lot of us as minorities have been through in the past, and now we're kind of having to relive that again.
But some leaders say the protest comes after generations of frustration for the African American community.
Black lives matter, white lives matter, all lives matter. They've been preaching this message for years about brutality against African American males. Unfortunately, it's reality.
You know, the people, they have a voice, they're frustrated, and sometimes when frustration happens, it builds tensions, and sometimes the outcome is not what we would like to see.
You continue to see people like, hold up, you have no disregard for our human life, so then it's okay for you to make derogatory, disrespectful comments about our race. I mean, it gets too much at a time.
But check it out, how many people have come to stand together in solidarity and unity here at this prayer service on the monument steps. It's going from 6 p.m. until about 7 p.m. and pastors at Waymaker Church and Ram Church International and More Church say they're here inspiring unity, togetherness, to come together and stand together and not violence, they say.
News coverage you can count on. This is ABC 13 News at 7.
An opportunity for change ruined. That is the message from Lynchburg's mayor tonight after protests turned violent.
Tonight, Lynchburg city leaders put out a unified message: stop the violence and focus on promoting positive and peaceful change.
Mayor Trenae Tweedy says the violence is inexcusable and must end. She says Lynchburg is better than what happened Sunday night. There's now a citywide voluntary curfew starting tonight at 8. Tweedy says now is the time for change, and anyone who turns a peaceful protest violent ruins the chance to educate others.
And that's incumbent on all of us. Every single parent, mentor, teacher, leader.
News coverage you can count on. This is ABC 13 News at 11.
ABC 13's live team coverage continues tonight with another night of protests.
While we were here about 10 minutes ago, we actually saw them arrest one of the protesters here. For the most part, the protests were peaceful, but police say they became violent as the night went on, and now police, they are sending some sort of loud bomb type, I'm not even sure what it's called, but we're hearing loud noises. They sound like loud booms, and then smoke is being sent overhead into where the protesters were. But they are asking them to disperse and leave the area, as they say they're here illegally and do not have rights to be here. Again, we did see at least one protester be arrested right now and taken off from the area. Police are starting to form a line as they are asking the protesters to leave. You can hear them talking again. They're moving in right now. We'll show you as they move in towards the protesters. Again, this is the Lynchburg Police Department advancing. They're going to fire again, asking for protesters to leave. As you can see, they've been advancing towards the protesters. There are still protesters in the area. Asking them to leave. Those are some of the protesters that have still been left here.
Christina, can you hear us? Are you safe? Do you feel safe where you are?
Yeah, sorry, Mark, my IFB came out. We do feel safe where we are. We're probably going to wrap things up right now, though, as police are asking everyone to leave the area. And they are sending some sort of gas towards the protesters, but as you can see, some of these protesters have chosen not to leave, and police are advancing, trying to get them out of the area.
Okay.
But I think we're probably going to
Yeah, you need to get out of
right
there
now, because
Christina.
All right, Christina. All right, stay safe, get safe. This is a very tense and developing situation there with Lynchburg police and a crowd that formed at Miller Park. We want to go now live to Taylor Coleman, who is also in that area. Taylor, do you have a different vantage point of what's happening?
Mark, I wish I could say I did, but I'm in my car right now because just minutes before we were about to go live, several protesters were in the background of our shots, threatening those live shots. So we are in our vehicle right now. But I do want to walk you through a timeline of kind of what's been happening all throughout this evening. If you want to show video from earlier tonight, the protest started around 7 o'clock. There were signs, chants, people honking their horns, driving by. That went on for about 2 hours or so. But then it took a little bit of a violent turn. A man was on top of his hood driving through. I think that might have hit the brakes or something like that because he flew off and hit the concrete. At this point, the crowd kind of formed around him, you know, it kind of slowed things down. Medics were called to the scene, and at this time, media was asked to leave the area. We left, and that's when the crowd kind of dispersed, but then they ended up marching right around the corner, making their way back to the park. They've been chanting Black Lives Matter and I Can't Breathe, and right now, you know, it's kind of ended at this point. However, you know, LPD is asking them to leave, and it's sort of becoming who's going to leave, who's going to stay type deal. You know, a lot of folks in our Facebook Lives been asking, how are they able to stay out here right now if there is a curfew? That curfew is voluntary tonight. It will be going mandatory tomorrow night.
ABC 13's Taylor Coleman is back live on the scene. And Taylor, I know you had to move to a place where you could get a little bit out of the action. What have you seen since we last spoke?
We have now moved to where the church is at the roundabout here on where Park Avenue and Langhorne Road are. Now this roundabout is closed off. We have Virginia State Police out here, Lynchburg Police Department. They've blocked off the area. You cannot enter this way.
Christina is now back live. Christina, I understand that you found another place, joining us live from the scene, and you were coughing, you'd gotten some smoke in, you're doing better now.
Right, we did. Well, so we had actually started walking police officers because we saw they had closed off this intersection up here as they were asking for all the protesters to leave from Park Avenue here. So we figured we'd go up and check out kind of that scene. And while we went up there, we saw them actually arrest a protester and take him away. And then that's when we figured, you know, we would stay up there and see what was going on. And shortly after is when they started sending off the different type of gas to try to get protesters to leave the area because they said they were here illegally. This is private property. They can't be here this late. So we did get caught in the middle of that. They are still sending off. We are hearing some of the shots of what it sounds like when they send off the gas, still more in that direction now. But police have, again, kind of retreated, and for the most part, all of the protesters are gone. We can give you a quick sweep of what Park Avenue looks like right now. There's police blocking it on either side. You can't get through. They're telling people not to come to this area. So again, we're probably going to pack up and leave because they are still announcing over their megaphones that if anyone is here, they will be arrested because you can't be here on private property this late at night. But we're going to try to continue monitoring this situation throughout the night to keep you updated on what's going on. But we are all okay. All of our teams are fine. And for all we know right now is that one protester was arrested. Live in Lynchburg, Christina Thompson, ABC 13 News.
All right, Christina, thank you, and glad to hear that you are safe tonight.